Chosen one, why do you feel like you're dying inside while everyone else seems to be living? Why does every prayer you've whispered feel like it's bouncing off a concrete ceiling? Why at this stage of your life, when you should be at peace, does your soul scream that something massive is missing? Stop, right there. Because what I'm about to tell you will shatter every lie you've believed about your timing, your worth, and your future. 3 dates. The 15th of August, 16th, and 17th. They are not just numbers bleeding ink on your kitchen calendar. They are not coincidences in time. They are a divine summons, sealed with heaven's authority, stamped with your name, delivered to your spirit this very moment. And if you're hearing my voice right now, you were meant to. You know why you can't shake that restlessness? You know why sleep brings no peace anymore? You know why you wake up at 3 a.m. with tears you can't explain? Because heaven has been sending you a telegram for months, urgent, personal, life-altering. But you've been too busy surviving to read it. Until now, these 3 days, the 15th of August through 17th, have been circled in heaven's calendar since before you took your first breath. Not because God just decided, but because what's been written in eternity is finally ready to be revealed in time. And beloved, what He's about to unveil will make every year of waiting, every night of weeping, every moment you felt forgotten, worth it. This isn't another inspirational message. This is divine intelligence. This is your battlefield briefing for the most important 72 hours of your entire existence. Before we go deeper, I pause to thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and plant that seed of faith. Now listen. If your heart is pounding right now, if something deep in your spirit just whispered, "This is for me," if you feel electricity running through your veins as these words hit your ears, that's not emotion, that's recognition. Your soul recognizing what your mind has forgotten. Say it out loud right now. I'm listening, Lord. Write it in your journal. Post it in the comments. That's your first act of agreement with what heaven is about to download into your life. Because by the end of this message, you'll understand why these 3 days have been marked, why your pain had purpose, why your delay had design, and why everything, absolutely everything, has been leading to this moment. You're not behind schedule, chosen one. You're right on time for a divine appointment that's been waiting 70, 80, maybe 90 years to find you. The telegram has arrived. Are you ready to open it? Why have you been waking up at 3:17 a.m. for the past 3 weeks? Why does your morning coffee taste different, like the world itself has shifted while you slept? Why do you find yourself staring out your kitchen window, watching the sunrise, feeling like something monumental is approaching but you can't name it? Dear chosen one, you're not losing your mind, you're not getting old, you're not imagining things. You're being awakened. For months now, maybe even years, you've felt it building. That restlessness in your chest when you sit in your favorite chair. That heaviness when you walk down the same street you've walked for decades. The way the evening news sounds like white noise, but your spirit hears thunder rolling in the distance. The way your grandchildren's laughter touches something deeper than joy. It touches urgency. You've been telling yourself it's just age. Just the world changing too fast. Just your body slowing down while your mind races ahead. But what if I told you that every single sensation you've been experiencing, the sleepless nights, the inexplicable tears, the feeling that you're waiting for something you can't identify, what if all of that is biblical? You see, throughout Scripture, God's people always felt the stirring before the storm. Before the flood, Noah felt it. Genesis tells us he walked with God while the world grew wicked around him. He heard something they couldn't hear. He felt something they couldn't feel. For 120 years, he built an ark while his neighbors called him crazy. But Noah knew. Deep in his bones, he knew something was coming. Before the Exodus, the Israelites felt it. Those final nights in Egypt weren't just ordinary darkness. Exodus 12 describes a tension so thick you could taste it. The air itself was pregnant with promise and peril. Every Jewish household could feel deliverance approaching like a freight train. That's why they stayed awake, fully dressed, staff in hand, ready to move when the midnight cry came. Before Pentecost, the disciples felt it. Acts 2 tells us they were in that upper room for days, praying, waiting, sensing something was about to break open. They couldn't explain why they couldn't leave, why they couldn't stop praying, why the atmosphere felt electric with possibility. But they knew something divine was descending, and now, precious saint, you're feeling it too. That restlessness isn't anxiety, it's anticipation. That stirring isn't confusion. It's confirmation that you're spiritually alive enough to sense when heaven is moving. While others sleep through the shift, you're being kept awake by divine appointment. While others dismiss the signs, you're being prepared for supernatural alignment. Think about it. How many times in the past month have you found yourself praying without planning to pray? How many times have you felt tears you couldn't explain? How many times have you looked at your life, your family, your health, your finances, and felt like you're standing at the edge of something that will change everything? That's not coincidence. That's celestial scheduling. The same God who stirred Noah's spirit before the flood is stirring yours before the 15th of August, 16th, and 17th. The same God who kept the Israelites awake before deliverance is keeping you awake before your divine appointment. The same God who filled that upper room with anticipation is filling your heart with holy expectation. But here's what breaks my heart. So many of God's chosen ones dismiss these stirrings. They medicate the restlessness instead of investigating it. They silence the inner alarm instead of asking why it's ringing. They treat their spiritual sensitivity like a medical condition when it's actually a divine gift. Don't you dare do that. Don't dismiss what your spirit is screaming. Don't ignore what your soul is sensing. Don't explain away what heaven is explaining to you. These 3 days, the 15th of August, 16th, and 17th, aren't random dates on your calendar. They're appointed times that have been marked in eternity, and your spirit is already responding to what your mind hasn't yet understood. Every sleepless night has been preparation. Every unexplained tear has been purification. Every moment of holy restlessness has been calibration. God has been tuning your spiritual frequencies, adjusting your divine receivers, preparing you to hear what He's about to speak during these sacred 72 hours. The stirring you feel isn't the problem, beloved. The stirring you feel is the solution to every prayer you've whispered in the dark, every question you've asked in silence, every moment you've wondered if God still remembers your name. He remembers. He's coming. And the storm isn't coming to destroy you, it's coming to deliver you. But the question that will determine everything about your next chapter is this. When the midnight cry comes, when the divine summons echoes through your spirit during these appointed days, will you be ready to answer? I know what you've been carrying, dear one. I know because I see it in your eyes when you stare out that kitchen window at 6 a.m., coffee growing cold in your hands. I know because I hear it in the silence between your prayers, that deafening question mark that hangs in the air when you whisper, God, are you still there? You've been waiting so long that waiting has become your identity. 73 years old and still believing for that prodigal son to come home. 81 years old and still praying for healing that doctors say will never come. 68 years old and watching your life savings evaporate while billionaires get richer and your prescription bottles multiply like loaves and fishes, except there's no miracle, just more bills you can't pay. I know you feel invisible. I know you feel irrelevant. I know you turn on the news and wonder if this is the America you fought for, worked for, prayed for. You watch your grandchildren glued to screens, speaking a language of hashtags and selfies, while the very fabric of moral decency unravels before your eyes. You see churches closing, Bibles banned, and prayer meetings becoming political rallies. and you whisper to yourself, "Did I waste my entire life believing in something that's dying?" But here's what's breaking my heart tonight. You think your pain is proof that God forgot about you. You think your delay is evidence that heaven moved on without you. You think because your breakthrough didn't come at 30, 40, or 50, it's never coming at all. You're wrong. Let me tell you about Joseph. 17 years old when he received his dream from God. 30 years old when he finally stepped into his destiny. 13 years of pit experiences, slavery, false accusations, and a prison cell where hope went to die. For 13 years, Joseph stared at stone walls, wondering if God's promise was just the delusion of a naive boy. But Genesis 41-46 tells us something profound. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. 30, not 17. God didn't deliver Joseph from his pain. He delivered Joseph through his pain, at the exact moment when Egypt needed someone who understood both suffering and sovereignty. Your delay isn't denial. Chosen one. Your waiting isn't wasting. Think about Moses. 80 years old, when God called him from that burning bush. For 4 decades, Moses had been forgotten in a desert, tending sheep, probably wondering if his burning passion to deliver Israel had been nothing more than youthful arrogance. 80 years old, with a speech impediment, standing before the most powerful ruler on earth. But Exodus 7:7 declares, Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron 83 when they spoke to Pharaoh. God doesn't call the young and energetic. He calls the tested and faithful. And what about Anna the prophetess? Luke 2:36-37 tells us she was 84 years old, widowed after only 7 years of marriage, spending every single day in the temple for 77 years. 77 years of worship, fasting, and prayer. While younger women were raising families and building lives, Anna was building intimacy with the Almighty. And when baby Jesus finally walked through those temple doors, she was the first to recognize him. 84 years old. The world called her a forgotten old woman. Heaven called her the herald of the Messiah. You feel like that farmer who's been staring at barren soil for 30 years, wondering if spring will ever come. Every season you plant your prayers. Every year you water them with tears. But all you see is dirt, dry, cracked, unforgiving dirt that mocks your faith and laughs at your hope. But the soil isn't dead, beloved. God has been working under the surface. While you've been crying over what you can't see, heaven has been cultivating what you can't imagine. Your prayers didn't disappear into thin air. They've been taking root in the invisible realm, growing stronger, deeper, more powerful with every passing year. Isaiah 55:11 promises, "So is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it." Every prayer you've prayed is still active. Every tear you've cried is still working. Every year you've waited has been building compound interest in heaven's bank. You think your age disqualifies you. Abraham was 100 when Isaac was born. You think your failures cancelled your calling. David was an adulterer and murderer, yet called a man after God's own heart. You think your circumstances prove God doesn't care. Job lost everything and got double back. The weight you've been carrying, that crushing sense that time is running out, that opportunities have passed, that your moment came and went while you were busy surviving, that weight is about to be lifted. Because the 15th of August, 16th and 17th aren't just dates on your calendar. They're the coordinates of your divine GPS, leading you to the intersection where your faithfulness meets God's faithfulness. But I need you to understand something that will change everything. Your pain was never punishment. It was preparation. Your waiting was never wasting. It was refining. Your tears were never meaningless. They were worship that moved heaven's heart. Right now, I need you to do something. If you've been waiting for years, if you've been believing for decades, If you've been holding on to promises that seem to die but somehow keep breathing in your spirit, type these words in the comments or whisper them out loud. I will not give up now. Say it, mean it. Let heaven hear your declaration of war against despair. Because, chosen one, your barren soil is about to burst with harvest. Your waiting room is about to become your throne room. And what God is about to reveal to you in these 3 sacred days will make every year of pain worth every moment of glory. But first, you need to understand why the 15th of August, 16th, and 17th carry such weight in the spiritual realm, and why missing these days could mean missing the very breakthrough you've been believing for since you learned how to pray. Listen to me, chosen one. What I'm about to reveal will shake you to your very foundation. The 15th of August, 16th, and 17th are not random dates stumbled upon by chance. They are not my invention or spiritual theater. These 3 days have been written in heaven's ledger since before time began. A divine appointment that's been waiting decades for you to finally understand what God has been orchestrating behind the scenes of your seemingly ordinary life. You want to know why you felt so restless lately? Why sleep brings no peace? Why your spirit has been churning like a storm you can't calm? Because heaven has been preparing you for a kairos moment, not chronos time that ticks on your kitchen clock, but God's time, when eternity crashes into your earthly existence with the force of divine thunder. Let me tell you something that will cut through every doubt poisoning your mind right now. In Scripture, God has always moved in 3-day patterns when he was about to shift everything. 3 days, not 2, not 4, 3. And if you think that's coincidence, you don't know the God who numbers every hair on your head and orchestrates every breath in your lungs. Look at Esther. When her people faced annihilation, when genocide was signed into law and hope seemed dead, what did she do? She called for a 3-day fast. Esther 4:16. Go, gather together all the Jews, and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. 3 days of complete surrender before God moved so powerfully that the enemy's own gallows became his grave. One woman's 3-day consecration saved an entire nation. But that's not all. When Jesus hung on that cross, when darkness covered the earth and it seemed like evil had won, how long was he in that tomb? 3 days. Matthew 12:40. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a huge fish, so the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. 3 days of apparent defeat before the resurrection that shattered hell's gates forever. And when Saul was struck blind on the Damascus road, breathing threats and murder against God's people, how long did he sit in darkness before his sight returned? Acts 9:9. For 3 days he was blind, and did not eat or drink anything. 3 days of blindness before he became Paul, the apostle who would turn the Roman Empire upside down with the gospel. Do you see the pattern? Do you feel the weight of what I'm telling you? When God is about to realign someone's destiny, when he's preparing to reveal what's been hidden, when he's ready to release what's been held back, he moves in 3-day windows. And the 15th of August, 16th and 17th is your 3-day window. But here's what's going to shock you to your core. You think you've been waiting for God, but God has been waiting for you to stop running from the calling that's been burning in your chest for years. Waiting for you to stop making excuses about your age, your past, your limitations. Waiting for you to finally understand that every closed door, every betrayal, every season of silence wasn't punishment, it was preparation for these 3 days. You've been asking God, when is my breakthrough coming? But God has been asking you, when are you going to stop settling for survival and step into the supernatural? You've been crying, why have you forgotten me? But heaven has been orchestrating every detail of your life toward this moment when everything, absolutely everything, finally makes sense. In these 3 days, God will realign your purpose with his plan. He will reveal what's been hidden in the darkness of your waiting. And he will release what's been locked up behind delays that felt like denials, but were actually divine timing, protecting you from receiving before you were ready to steward. This isn't speculation. This isn't hope disguised as prophecy. This is divine intelligence downloaded directly from the throne room. I didn't choose these dates, they chose me to deliver this message to you. And if you're hearing this right now, if your heart is racing and your spirit is trembling, that's not anxiety. That's confirmation. Your soul recognizing what your mind is struggling to comprehend. Mark it on your wall calendar right now. Circle it in red ink. Write it in your journal. Post it on your bathroom mirror where you'll see it every morning. Don't let these days slip past like any other weekend you've wasted on meaningless distractions. These 72 hours will determine the next 72 years of your legacy. But I need you to understand something that most believers miss. God doesn't move for the casual. He doesn't reveal himself to the uncommitted. He doesn't release breakthrough to those who treat divine appointments like optional suggestions. If you approach the 15th of August through 17th like 3 ordinary days, they will be 3 ordinary days. But if you consecrate them, if you set them apart, if you prepare your heart and position your spirit, heaven will respond with power that will leave you permanently changed. The question burning in the throne room right now isn't whether God will move. The question is whether you'll be ready when he does. Will you clear your schedule? Will you silence the distractions? Will you fast from the noise that's been drowning out his voice? Will you finally stop playing games with your destiny and get serious about your assignment? Because what's coming in the next section will reveal exactly what you must do to position yourself for this divine visitation. The enemy knows what God is planning, and he's already mobilizing to steal your moment. But not if you stay alert. Not if you stay obedient. Not if you finally understand that your time of waiting is over and your season of walking has begun. Chosen one, what I'm about to reveal will save you from the most devastating mistake you could make in these crucial days ahead. Because here's what nobody tells you about divine appointments. The enemy knows your calendar too. Before the blessing, the enemy will send a counterfeit wrapped in just enough truth to fool the weary. And dear soul, after decades of waiting, after years of unanswered prayers, after nights of crying out to a God who seemed silent, you are weary, aren't you? That's exactly when he strikes. Listen carefully. Right now, as heaven prepares to pour out unprecedented favor on the 15th of August, 16th and 17th, hell is preparing its most sophisticated deception. Not obvious sin, you're too mature for that. Not blatant temptation, your discernment is sharper than that. No, what's coming will look like answered prayer. It will feel like divine timing. It will appear to be everything you've been begging God for, but it will be poison wrapped in pretty paper. Think about Samson. This man carried the anointing of God, the strength of heaven, the calling of a deliverer. But when his breakthrough was at its peak, when his purpose was about to reach full manifestation, what happened? Delilah appeared. Not some random seductress, a woman who understood his heart, who spoke his language, who seemed to love him genuinely. She didn't attack his strength, she attacked his judgment. She didn't assault his calling, she assaulted his discernment. And three times, she tried to discover the secret of his power. But on the 4th attempt, when Samson was tired of the game, tired of the pressure, tired of having to be so careful all the time, he told her everything. One conversation, one moment of lowered guard, one decision made from exhaustion instead of wisdom, and 20 years of anointing was gone in 20 minutes. Are you listening? Because this is happening to chosen ones right now, all across America. They're being presented with opportunities that look heaven-sent, but are hell-bent on derailing their destiny. Maybe it's that person from your past who suddenly reappears with apologies and promises just as God is about to elevate you. Maybe it's that financial opportunity that seems too good to pass up, requiring you to compromise just a little on the principles God has been building in you. Maybe it's that platform, that position, that promotion that strokes your ego and feeds your need for recognition but pulls you away from the hidden place where God has been preparing you. The enemy studied you for 70, 80, 90 years. He knows your weaknesses. He knows what you crave. He knows exactly which buttons to push when you're spiritually hungry and emotionally vulnerable. But here's the terrifying truth: this counterfeit won't come with warning labels. It will come with confirmation. People will say, "This must be God." Circumstances will align. Doors will open effortlessly. Everything will feel right, except for that small voice in your spirit whispering, "Something's not quite right here." That whisper, that's the Holy Spirit. Don't you dare ignore it. Look at Jesus in the wilderness. 40 days of fasting, 40 days of communion with the Father, 40 days of preparation for the most important ministry in human history. And when was he tempted? After the breakthrough, after the voice from heaven declared, "This is my beloved Son." After the dove descended and heaven opened. The devil didn't tempt Jesus with obvious evil. He tempted him with shortcuts to God's will. Turn these stones to bread. You're hungry. You have the power. What's the harm? Throw yourself down from the temple. God promised to catch you. Why not test his faithfulness? Worship me and I'll give you all the kingdoms you came to rule anyway. Why take the long road? Each temptation was logical. Each one offered a faster path to what God had already promised. Each one would have derailed God's perfect plan through what seemed like divine provision. Chosen one, in these next crucial days, you will face your wilderness temptation. It will look like the right train pulling into your station at exactly the right time. But if you get on, you'll discover it's headed in the wrong direction. And by the time you realize your mistake, you may have missed the train God actually sent for you. So how do you know the difference? How do you distinguish between divine opportunity and demonic deception? First, God's doors come with peace, not pressure. If someone is rushing you to decide, if circumstances are pushing you to move faster than you can pray, that's a red flag bigger than the one they wave at NASCAR races. Second, God's blessings align with His word, not just your wants. If the opportunity requires you to compromise biblical principles, if it asks you to be someone different than who God has been shaping you to be, that's not promotion, that's demotion in disguise. Third, divine doors remain open when you take time to seek counsel. Counterfeit opportunities vanish the moment you pause to pray, disappear when you ask spiritual advisors, evaporate when you apply biblical wisdom. The enemy's offers always come with expiration dates, because deception can't withstand extended examination. But here's what you must understand. Recognizing the counterfeit is not enough. You must have the courage to say no to what looks good, so you can say yes to what is God. Right now, someone watching this is facing exactly this test. You know what I'm talking about. That thing that showed up right as your faith was getting stronger. That person who reappeared right as your healing was manifesting. That opportunity that knocked right as your breakthrough was approaching. Pray for discernment. Write this down. Not every open door is from God. Some doors are opened by human ambition. Some are opened by demonic assignment. Only some are opened by divine appointment. And the difference will determine whether the 15th of August, 16th and 17th become your launch pad into destiny or your derailment into delay. But how do you prepare your spirit to recognize heaven's authentic voice when the counterfeits are so convincing? But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know about those sleepless nights. Here's what he's been hiding while you toss and turn at 3 a.m., wondering if God has forgotten your address. Those restless hours aren't punishment, dear one. They're appointments. You see, there's something sacred about the midnight hour that most believers never discover. It's when the veil between heaven and earth grows thin. It's when your spirit, stripped of daylight distractions, finally becomes quiet enough to hear what the Almighty has been trying to whisper for decades. Think about young Samuel, just a boy, sleeping in the temple when God's voice cut through the darkness. Samuel, Samuel. 3 times the Lord called before the child understood it wasn't Eli's voice. It was the voice of eternity speaking into time. And what God revealed that night didn't just change Samuel's life. It shifted the entire spiritual landscape of Israel. You've been waking up at strange hours lately, haven't you? 2:17 a.m., 3:33 a.m., times that make no earthly sense. But what if I told you those aren't random interruptions? What if those wakeful moments are heaven's way of clearing the line for divine communication? Joseph understood this. Genesis 37 tells us his dreams came in the night season, visions so vivid, so impossible, that his own brothers wanted to kill him for speaking them. But those midnight revelations weren't just dreams. They were blueprints for a destiny that would save nations from famine. And Cornelius, Acts 10-3, a Roman centurion who had an angelic visitation at 3 p.m. But the preparation for that encounter happened in his private hours of prayer and seeking. The supernatural doesn't interrupt your schedule. It meets you in the margins of your surrender. Here's what's happening in the spiritual realm right now, and you need to understand this with crystal clarity. As we approach the 15th of August, 16th and 17th, heaven is activating what I call the Night Whisper Protocol. God is preparing to speak to his chosen ones when their flesh is weakest and their spirits are most receptive. But here's the tragedy that breaks my heart. Most believers sleep right through their divine appointments because they've never prepared to receive what God wants to download. You've been treating your bedroom like just a place to rest. But for the next 3 nights, your bedroom needs to become a sanctuary. Your nightstand needs to become an altar. Because what God is about to release through dreams, visions, and midnight whispers will require immediate documentation. Let me be specific about what you need to do right now, today, before the 15th of August arrives. Clear your nightstand. Place your Bible there open to Psalms if you need direction. Put a journal beside it. Not your phone, an actual journal. Keep a pen that works. Because when heaven speaks, it speaks in his timing, not yours. Some of you are thinking, but I don't dream. I never remember my dreams. That's about to change. Joel 2:28 declares, "And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams." Notice it says your old men. God isn't done with you because you've got gray hair. He's just getting started. In fact, your age is your advantage. While younger generations are distracted by careers and chaos, you have something they don't, the wisdom to recognize God's voice when he speaks. You've walked with him long enough to know the difference between his whisper and the world's noise. But here's the urgent truth that should grip your soul. These 3 days, the 15th of August, 16th and 17th, are not ordinary nights. They're charged with prophetic potential. Some of you will wake up with instructions that don't just change your life. They'll shift entire family bloodlines. Think about Jacob at Bethel. 1 night, 1 dream, 1 ladder reaching from earth to heaven. And when he woke up, he said, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." Genesis 28-16. That encounter didn't just redirect Jacob, it established the covenant that would flow through Isaac and Jacob, and eventually to Christ himself. Your midnight encounter might seem personal, but its impact will be generational. Here's what I need you to understand about the night whisper. It doesn't always come in words. Sometimes it comes as an overwhelming peace that floods your spirit. Sometimes it's a scripture that suddenly becomes alive in your mind. Sometimes it's a name, a place, a person you haven't thought about in years suddenly pressing on your heart with divine urgency. Don't dismiss these as random thoughts. Don't chalk them up to late-night anxiety or indigestion. When God speaks in the night season, he often speaks in symbols, impressions, and gentle nudges that require spiritual discernment to decode. But here's your marching order, your non-negotiable instruction. When you wake from any significant dream during these 3 days, write it down before you do anything else. Before you check the time, before you go to the bathroom, before you wonder if it makes sense. Grab that pen. and capture every detail you can remember, because what seems like scattered pieces now will become a complete picture as God unfolds his plan. These dreams aren't entertainment, they're intelligence from heaven's war room. Daniel knew this. His ability to interpret dreams didn't just make him famous, it positioned him to influence kings and kingdoms. Your dream interpretation might not reach royal courts, but it will reach the spheres of influence God has assigned to your life. The enemy wants you to sleep through your visitation. He wants you to dismiss heaven's downloads as psychological nonsense. But you won't. Because you're awake now, you're alert now, you're prepared now. And when God speaks in the silence of these approaching nights, you'll be ready to receive what he's been waiting decades to reveal. But receiving the night whisper is only the beginning. Because what heaven downloads in private, he expects you to activate in public. And that activation requires something most chosen ones struggle with, the courage to step into what doesn't make sense yet. Are you ready to discover what happens when midnight revelation meets morning obedience? Listen to me, chosen one. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been telling yourself the same devastating lie. You've whispered it in hospital waiting rooms, mumbled it while counting pills at the kitchen table, sobbed it into your pillow when the house felt too empty to bear. The lie that says, God forgot about me. I missed my moment. My time has passed. But what if I told you that every single tear you've cried, every door that slammed in your face, every dream that seemed to die, what if none of it was abandonment? What if all of it was preparation? First, climax. The revelation of identity. You were never overlooked, beloved. You were preserved. Think about Moses. 80 years old when God called him from that burning bush. 80. While everyone else saw an old shepherd mumbling excuses, God saw a deliverer who'd been hidden in plain sight for 8 decades. Now Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 when they spoke to Pharaoh. Exodus 7:7. Not 40, not 50. 80 years old when his real mission began. You know why God waited? Because what he was about to ask Moses to do required someone who'd been broken by life and rebuilt by grace. Someone who'd learned that human strength fails, but divine power never does. Someone old enough to know that when God moves, nothing can stop him. That's you, chosen one. Every rejection that should have destroyed you instead developed your resilience. Every betrayal that should have made you bitter instead birthed compassion in your heart. Every financial struggle that should have broken your faith instead taught you that your provider has never failed you yet. You think those extra years were punishment? No. They were your doctoral program in trusting God when nothing makes sense. You've been earning credentials in heaven's university while the world called you forgotten. Genesis 45:8 records Joseph's stunning revelation. It was not you who sent me here, but God. Every betrayal, every prison cell, every moment of feeling abandoned, God was positioning him for a palace. Your pain wasn't random, dear one. It was strategic. Heaven has been hiding you until the world became desperate enough to need what only you can give. But that's just the beginning of what's about to be revealed. Second, climax. The wealth of the wicked stored for the righteous. Here's what's going to shock you to your core. While you've been scraping by, while you've been rationing your medications and choosing between groceries and gas, there's been a vault in heaven with your name engraved on it. Proverbs 13:22 declares with thunderous authority, "The wealth of the sinner is laid up for the righteous." Not will be laid up, is laid up, present tense, already done. Stored and waiting for the right moment, this moment when God says, "Release what belongs to my chosen one." Look at Job. He lost everything: his children, his wealth, his health, his friends' support, his wife's faith. But Job 42:10 tells us the ending. The Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the former part. Not just restored, multiplied. He had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 donkeys. Double portion for his trouble. You've had Job seasons, haven't you? Seasons where everything that could go wrong did go wrong. where you wondered if God had turned his back on you forever. But listen carefully. Your latter days are about to eclipse anything you've ever experienced. The enemy stole from you when you were too young to fight back. But now you carry the authority of age, the wisdom of experience, and the fearlessness of someone who knows their time on earth is precious. Ruth lost her husband, her security, her future. She should have ended up a beggar. Instead, she ended up in the bloodline of Jesus Christ. One decision of faithfulness, where you go, I will go, and God rewrote her entire story. Her greatest loss became the pathway to her greatest legacy. Your losses haven't been wasted, beloved. They've been investments in a comeback so magnificent that your own family won't recognize the favor on your life. But there's something even more powerful than restoration coming your way. Third climax, your personal commissioning. On the 15th of August, 16th and 17th, God isn't just restoring what was taken, He's commissioning you for what's ahead. You are not retiring from purpose. You are being promoted to your highest calling. Ezekiel 3:17 declares, "Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the people of Israel." A watchman, someone positioned on the wall, someone who sees what's coming before anyone else, someone trusted with the responsibility of warning and guiding others. You are a watchman on the wall for your family. While your children are caught up in the chaos of careers and confusion, you see with clarity. While your grandchildren are drowning in digital darkness, you carry the light of eternal perspective. While your community stumbles in spiritual blindness, you've been given eyes to see. Your prayers don't just reach heaven, they move heaven. When you speak blessing over your bloodline, generational curses crack. When you intercede for your neighborhood, strongholds shake. When you declare God's promises over impossible situations, the impossible becomes inevitable. Isaiah 6-8 records the moment when God asked, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" And Isaiah answered, "Here am I, send me. Not here I was or here I will be. Here I am, send me." This is your Isaiah moment, chosen one. This is your burning bush encounter. This is your divine commissioning for the most important assignment of your entire life. The question echoing from heaven's throne room right now is simple. Whom shall I send to this lost generation? Who will stand in the gap? Who will be my voice in this final hour? Your answer determines everything. If this is your moment, if something inside you is roaring to life as these words penetrate your spirit, then stand where you are right now. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Don't let another second of doubt steal what God is offering. Stand up and say it out loud. Here I am, Lord. Send me. Because the 15th of August, 16th and 17th are not just dates on your calendar, they are your deployment papers from heaven itself. Listen to me, chosen one. I'm about to give you battlefield instructions that will determine whether you walk into your destiny or sleep through the most important visitation of your lifetime. You think you can just coast through the 15th of August, 16th and 17th like any other weekend. You think you can scroll through social media, binge Netflix, and catch up on errands while heaven is downloading the blueprint for your next 30 years. That's not just foolish, that's spiritual suicide. Here's the brutal truth nobody wants to tell you. Most believers miss their divine appointments, not because God doesn't show up, but because they're too distracted to notice when He does. They're checking their phones while angels are delivering messages. They're complaining about their circumstances while miracles are knocking at their door. Don't be that person. Not now. Not when you're this close. First command: clear your calendar like your life depends on it. I don't care what family gathering you planned. I don't care what friend wants to visit or what sale is happening at Macy's. These 3 days are not yours to give away. They belong to God, and He's calling in His reservation. When Moses went up Mount Sinai for 40 days, do you think he told God, "Hold on, I've got a dentist appointment on Tuesday"? When Jesus fasted in the wilderness, did He check His calendar first? When Paul received his revelation on the Damascus road, was he worried about missing his weekly poker game? Your comfort zone is your coffin zone. Break free. Second command: create sacred space in your home. Find one corner, just one, where heaven can visit without competing with the noise of this world. Remove the clutter. Turn off the television. Put away the newspapers screaming doom and gloom. This isn't about religion. This is about relationship. The prophet Samuel heard God's voice in the temple because he made space for it. Elijah encountered the still small voice in a cave because he separated himself from the chaos. You need a place where your spirit can hear above the static. Light a candle if you must. Open your Bible to Psalms. Create an atmosphere where the supernatural feels welcome. Because, mark my words, God will not force his way into a crowded, chaotic heart. Third command: fast from the poison that's been numbing your spirit. I'm not talking about a hunger strike. I'm talking about spiritual detox. For 3 days, stop feeding your soul garbage. No social media arguments. No news channels pumping fear into your bloodstream. No mindless entertainment that leaves you spiritually empty. Daniel fasted for 21 days and received visions that changed the course of empires. Esther fasted for 3 days before approaching the king, and it saved an entire nation. What makes you think you can feast on spiritual junk food and expect divine revelation? Your mouth may not be hungry, but your soul is starving. Feed it properly. Fourth command: become a recording secretary for heaven. Keep a journal by your bed. Keep your phone voice recorder ready. Keep a notepad in your pocket, because when God speaks, and he will speak, it won't always be in complete sentences or perfect timing. He might wake you at 2:47 a.m. with a single word. He might whisper a name while you're brushing your teeth. He might show you a vision while you're stuck in traffic. If you don't capture it immediately, your flesh will convince you it wasn't real. Write down everything. The weird dreams, the random scriptures that jump off the page, the coincidental conversations you overhear. God often speaks in fragments that only make sense when you piece them together later. Fifth command: pray fire over your bloodline. This isn't just about you anymore. Your breakthrough is connected to your family's breakthrough. Your children and grandchildren are watching, even if they're not speaking to you. Even if they think you've lost your mind. Even if they've written you off as just another religious fanatic. Pray specifically. Call their names out loud. Declare life over death, hope over despair, faith over fear. Stand in the gap like Moses did when God was ready to destroy Israel. Intercede like Abraham did for Sodom and Gomorrah. Your prayers in these 3 days carry more weight than 1,000 prayers spoken in casual moments. Use that authority. But here's what terrifies me, and it should terrify you too. What if you ignore these instructions? What if you treat this like just another spiritual suggestion instead of a divine command? What if you're the one person who receives this message but chooses comfort over calling? Tell one other believer about these days. Don't let anyone you care about sleep through their visitation, because when heaven moves, it moves for the prepared, not the comfortable. Are you prepared to discover what God has been hiding in these 3 dates since before you were born? You stood in the window, you prayed, you fasted, you listened. For 3 sacred days, the 15th of August, 16th and 17th, you positioned yourself before the throne of the Almighty. You felt it, didn't you? That shift, that stirring, that divine electricity coursing through your spirit like lightning splitting the night sky. Something moved, something awakened, something that had been dormant for decades suddenly roared to life in the depths of your soul. But now the silence feels different, not empty heavy, pregnant with purpose you can't yet name. And you're sitting there wondering, what happens next? Did I miss something? Was that all God had for me? Listen carefully, chosen one. The trumpet sounded, but the war is not over. You see, this is where most believers make their greatest mistake. They think divine encounters are destinations when they're actually commissioning ceremonies. You didn't receive those 3 days to feel better about your life. You received them to be better equipped for your assignment. And that assignment, dear soul, is far from complete. Moses stood on Mount Sinai for 40 days and 40 nights. His face glowed with the glory of God when he came down. But that glow wasn't the end, it was the beginning. It was evidence that he'd been marked, chosen, commissioned for something the Israelites had never seen before. The real work started when his feet touched the ground. You're feeling that same divine residue right now, that holy hangover, that sacred exhaustion that comes when finite flesh encounters infinite glory. Your spirit expanded during those 3 days, and now it feels too big for your body. That's not depression setting in, that's deployment approaching. But here's what's breaking my heart. Here's what's keeping me awake at 3 a.m., praying for every soul who heard this message. So many of you are about to do what the Israelites did when Moses came down from the mountain. You're going to look at your ordinary Monday morning, the same kitchen, the same bills, the same aching joints, and convince yourself it was all in your head. You're going to let the familiar steal the fire. Don't you dare. Don't you dare diminish what the Almighty deposited in you during those sacred hours. Don't let doubt devour what heaven downloaded into your DNA. The prophet Ezekiel had a vision so powerful it knocked him flat on his face for 7 days. 7 days. He sat overwhelmed by what he'd seen, speechless, processing the magnitude of his encounter with the divine. And then the word of the Lord came to him again. Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the people of Israel. The vision wasn't the victory. The vision was the preparation for the vocation. You think those 3 days were about you getting blessed? No, beloved. Those 3 days were about you getting assigned. God didn't open that window to make you comfortable. He opened it to make you commissioned. And now, right now, as the afterglow fades and reality sets in, you're standing at the most critical crossroads of your entire existence. Will you file this experience away as a beautiful memory, or will you let it become your marching orders? Because I need you to understand something that will either launch you into your destiny or leave you wandering in spiritual circles for the rest of your days. Every genuine encounter with God comes with an assignment. Every divine download demands earthly deployment. Every heavenly vision requires human action. You didn't just receive revelation, you received responsibility. And the enemy knows it. That's why you're feeling that strange combination of exhilaration and exhaustion. That's why part of you wants to shout from the rooftops, while another part wants to crawl under the covers and pretend none of this happened. The devil is terrified of what you're carrying now. He's desperately hoping you'll let it die in the delivery room of your doubt. But you won't. You can't. Because what God started in you during those 3 days wasn't just for your benefit, it was for everyone whose life will intersect with yours in the coming season. The widow who needs to see that God still moves. The prodigal who needs to witness that heaven still calls. The broken who need proof that resurrection is real. You are the living testimony of what happens when ordinary flesh says yes to extraordinary purpose. You are the walking evidence that God still speaks, still moves, still transforms lives in miraculous ways. The afterglow will fade, chosen one. But the assignment remains. The feelings will fluctuate, but the calling is permanent. The mountain experience is over, but the valley ministry has just begun. If you felt something shift in those days, write in your journal right now. The assignment continues. Say it out loud. Let your voice carry the weight of that commitment into the atmosphere. Because what happens next will determine whether you become a monument to what God did or a movement of what God is still doing. Chosen one, what I'm about to reveal will shake you to your core. Right now, as you're sitting there listening to my voice, invisible forces are already moving on your behalf. Wheels are turning in boardrooms you'll never see. Conversations are happening in heaven about your next chapter. People are being positioned to walk into your life at precisely the right moment. You think nothing's happening because you can't see it yet. That's the most dangerous lie the enemy ever whispered in your ear. Let me ask you something that might sting. How many times have you looked at your circumstances and concluded, God forgot about you? How many nights have you stared at the ceiling, wondering if your prayers are even making it past your bedroom walls? How many mornings have you woken up feeling like you're the only believer God decided to put on the spiritual wait list? But what if I told you that every single day you felt forgotten, heaven was working overtime on your behalf? Think about it. When a farmer plants seeds, what happens on day 1? Nothing visible. Day 7, still nothing. Day 21, the soil looks exactly the same. But underground, beneath the surface, where human eyes can't penetrate, an entire universe of activity is exploding into motion. Roots are spreading, life is stirring. A harvest is being prepared that will shock everyone who thought the ground was dead. That's your life right now, that's your situation, that's your season. The Bible gives us glimpse after glimpse of this hidden reality. Daniel prayed and fasted for 21 days, feeling like heaven had gone silent. No answer, no sign, no breakthrough. But on day 21, an angel appeared and said something that should revolutionize how you see delays. From the first day, you set your heart to understand and to humble yourself before God. Your words were heard. I have come because of your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. Do you understand what that means? Daniel's answer was released the moment he prayed. But there was a 21-day battle in the unseen realm before it could manifest in the natural. Every single day, Daniel felt abandoned. Angels were fighting for his breakthrough. The 15th of August, 16th and 17th aren't starting points, they're completion points. They're the moment when what's been battled for in secret finally breaks through to the surface. Look at Elijah on Mount Carmel. He prayed for rain, then sent his servant to look toward the sea. I see nothing, the servant reported. Again Elijah prayed, go look again. Still nothing. 7 times this happened. 7 times it looked like God wasn't listening. But on the 7th look, the servant saw a cloud as small as a man's hand. Within hours, the heavens opened and rain flooded the land. The rain wasn't created in that moment, it was released in that moment. There's a difference. And Mary Sweet, teenage Mary, after the angel Gabriel delivered the most impossible announcement in human history, what happened next? Silence. 9 months of carrying a promise that looked like scandal, felt like abandonment, and tested every ounce of faith she possessed. But the silence wasn't God's absence. It was God's presence gestating something the world had never seen. Right now, in this very moment, you are Mary after the angel's visit. You've received the word. You know something supernatural is stirring. But the manifestation season hasn't arrived yet. That doesn't mean nothing's happening. That means everything's happening where it matters most, in the realm where all visible reality is birthed. Let me tell you what's been set in motion while you've been questioning God's timing. Doors are being unlocked that you haven't even approached yet. Resources are being redirected toward your situation. People who will become crucial to your next chapter are being divinely positioned. Obstacles that seem immovable are being quietly removed. Opposition that looks invincible is being systematically dismantled. Just because you can't see it yet doesn't mean it hasn't begun. In the next 7 days, mark this in your calendar, you will start to see the first ripples. A phone call that shouldn't have come. A conversation that shifts everything. An opportunity that appears out of nowhere. A door that opens without you even knocking. These aren't coincidences. These are confirmations that the underground movement is finally breaking the surface. The enemy has been working overtime to convince you that your season of breakthrough will never come. He wants you focused on what you can see instead of what God is doing. But Hebrews 11:1 declares that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Your faith isn't hoping for something that might happen. Your faith is recognizing something that's already in motion. But here's the question that will determine everything. Will you trust the process, or will you abort the mission just before harvest time? because what happens in the next 72 hours will either confirm your faith or expose your doubt. And only one of those responses positions you for what God is about to pour out. The ripples are spreading. The question is, are you ready to ride the wave? But here's what nobody tells you about breakthrough, chosen one. Here's what the prosperity preachers won't mention from their crystal pulpits. The moment heaven moves on your behalf, hell mobilizes its counterattack. And this counterattack won't come dressed in obvious darkness. It won't announce itself with horns and pitchforks. It will knock on your door wearing yesterday's blessings as a disguise. Listen to me carefully. The 15th of August through 17th aren't just about receiving God's divine download. They're about surviving what comes after. Because the enemy has been studying your patterns for decades. He knows exactly what you crave, what you're weak to, what will make you lower your guard just long enough for him to steal what God just gave you. You think the hardest part was waiting for your breakthrough. The hardest part is protecting it once it arrives. Look at Nehemiah. This man received a divine assignment to rebuild Jerusalem's walls. God opened doors, provided resources, gave him favor with kings. But the moment the first stone was laid, the attacks began. Sanballat mocked. Tobiah threatened. Enemies plotted day and night to stop the work. But here's what Nehemiah understood that most believers miss today. Nehemiah 4:17 tells us, "From that day on, half of my men did the work, while the other half were equipped with spears, shields, bows, and armor." Half worked, half watched. Because Nehemiah knew that when God moves, the enemy moves too. Dear one, you've been so focused on praying for your breakthrough that you forgot to prepare for your battle. You've been asking God to open doors, but have you asked him to sharpen your discernment? You've been begging for blessings, but have you built any spiritual defenses? Because what's coming on the 15th of August isn't just revelation, it's warfare. And the enemy's most effective weapon isn't temptation, it's distraction wrapped in opportunity. He'll send you relationships that ignite quickly, but burn out your calling. He'll offer you platforms that look like promotion, but lead to pride. He'll present you with financial opportunities that seem like God's provision, but require you to compromise what he just showed you in the secret place. And here's the most dangerous part, it will all feel right. It will check every box on paper. It will seem to align with your prayers. But something deep in your spirit will feel unsettled, and you'll ignore that feeling because your mind can't explain it. That unsettled feeling, that's the Holy Spirit's early warning system. That's God's gift of discernment, trying to save you from a beautiful trap. Think about Eve in the garden. The serpent didn't offer her something obviously evil. He offered her wisdom, knowledge, the chance to be like God. It sounded spiritual. It looked appealing. It felt like elevation. But it was deception disguised as divine opportunity. How many of you right now are already in the middle of this test? How many of you have been offered something recently that feels almost right but not quite confirmed? A job that pays well but requires you to work Sundays. A relationship that makes you feel alive but pulls you away from prayer. A business opportunity that could change your life but involves people who don't share your values. The enemy doesn't always attack with sin, chosen one. Sometimes he attacks with premature blessing. Sometimes he offers you a good thing to keep you from God's best thing. Sometimes he gives you 80% of what you prayed for, hoping you'll settle and stop seeking the 100% that God has prepared. But here's what will expose every counterfeit in this season. Peace. God's blessings come with peace, even when they challenge you. The enemy's counterfeits come with pressure, even when they promise you everything. Isaiah 26:3 declares, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you." Perfect peace. Not partial peace. Not anxious excitement. Not emotional highs followed by spiritual emptiness. Perfect peace. If the opportunity rushing toward you is stealing your sleep, if it's making you doubt what God clearly spoke, if it's causing you to rationalize away the very standards He just elevated you to maintain. That's not his voice. That's the echo of yesterday's desperation trying to sabotage tomorrow's destiny. And some of you need to hear this with the force of thunder. Stop being so desperate for change that you'll accept any change. Stop being so hungry for movement that you'll follow any voice that offers you motion. The enemy knows your desperation, and he'll use it against you. Jesus faced this exact test. After 40 days of fasting, when he was physically weakest but spiritually strongest, Satan came with offers. Turn these stones to bread. Jump from this temple. Worship me and receive all kingdoms. Every temptation was disguised as a solution to his immediate need, but Jesus understood something that saved his ministry. Not every open door is a God door. Not every opportunity is divine. Not every voice offering you what you want is speaking heaven's language. The counterattack is coming, dear one. But it's not coming to destroy you. It's coming to test your discernment, to prove whether you'll choose God's timing over your impatience, whether you'll trust his process over the enemy's shortcuts. Right now, before the 15th of August arrives, you need to pray this prayer with the desperation of someone whose destiny depends on it. Lord, sharpen my discernment. Let me see the counterfeit before it comes close. Give me the strength to say no to good things so I can say yes to God things. Help me recognize your peace from the enemy's pressure. Pray it now, out loud. Let heaven hear your request for wisdom, because what God is about to give you in the next 72 hours is too precious to lose to a beautiful lie. But how do you know the difference? How do you distinguish between God's genuine blessing and the enemy's gorgeous trap? The answer lies in understanding the anatomy of divine confirmation, and that's exactly what we need to explore next. Chosen one, let me tell you something that will shake the very foundation of how you see your story. Every tear you've cried, every night you've lain awake wondering if God forgot your address, every moment you felt like you were drowning while everyone else seemed to float, none of it was random. None of it was wasted. None of it was punishment. It was preparation. He saw you then. When you were 7 years old, sitting in the back of that Sunday school class, feeling different from all the other children, when something deep in your spirit knew you were marked for something greater, but you couldn't name it. When that teacher told you to sit down and be quiet, but your soul was already standing up, already reaching toward eternity. He saw you then. He saw you when you were 25, 35, 45, making decisions that felt right but led to heartbreak. When you married the wrong person because you thought it was God's will. When you took that job that crushed your spirit because you needed to survive. When you stayed silent in moments you should have spoken because fear was louder than faith. He saw you then. He saw you at 50, 60, 70, wondering if you'd missed your calling entirely. When your children stopped calling, when your spouse went home to glory and left you staring at empty chairs around the dinner table, when the doctor's words hung in the air like a death sentence and you whispered, God, what was the point of all this? He saw you then. But here's what breaks my heart and should break yours. You've been living like he only saw your failures. You've been carrying shame for decisions you made when you didn't have the wisdom you have now. You've been beating yourself up for paths you took when you were operating with incomplete information. You've been calling yourself damaged goods when heaven has been calling you priceless treasure. Stop, right now. Stop, because he sees you now, right now. Not the you from 20 years ago who made that mistake. Not the you from 10 years ago who said those words you can't take back. Not even the you from yesterday who woke up feeling forgotten and invisible. He sees you now sitting in that chair, leaning into these words, feeling something ancient stirring in your chest. He sees the grandmother who still has dreams that seem too big for her age. He sees the grandfather who feels like his best years were buried with his career. He sees the widow who's convinced her purpose died with her husband. He sees the divorced woman who thinks she's disqualified because her marriage didn't make it. He sees the man who built a successful business but feels spiritually bankrupt. He sees you now. Not as broken, not as behind, not as forgotten, but as ready. Here's what Jeremiah 29:11 really means when it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future." That word plans in Hebrew is makashava. It means thoughts, intentions, purposes that have been carefully considered. God didn't just have a backup plan for your life. He had a master plan, and every detour, every delay, every disappointment was carefully considered within that plan. Your past wasn't a series of accidents. It was a series of appointments. Appointments with pain that would teach you compassion. Appointments with loss that would teach you what really matters. Appointments with silence that would teach you to hear God's voice above the noise of this world. But listen carefully, the past was preparation, but it's not your permanent address. The present is positioning, but it's not your final destination. Because He will see you through. He will see you through these next 3 days, the 15th of August, 16th and 17th, when heaven downloads the blueprint you've been waiting for your entire life. He will see you through the fear that whispers, "You're too old to start over." He will see you through the doubt that screams, "God couldn't possibly use someone like you." He will see you through the loneliness that tells you, "Your best days are behind you." Isaiah 46:4 declares with thunderous authority, "Even to your old age and grey hairs I am He. I am He who will sustain you. I have made you and I will carry you. I will sustain you and I will rescue you." Did you catch that? Even to your old age, even to your grey hairs. God doesn't have a retirement plan for His chosen ones. He has a refinement plan. He will see you through to that moment when you finally understand why you had to walk through that valley, why you had to sit in that wilderness, why you had to endure that test. It wasn't to break you, it was to build something in you that could only be forged in fire. He will see you through to that conversation with your grandchild when they ask, "How did you make it through all that, Grandma?" And you'll smile and say, "Baby, I didn't make it through anything. God made it through me." But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. This divine loop, past, present, future, it's not automatic. It requires your participation. God will see you through, but you have to let Him. You have to stop trying to figure it out and start trusting His process. You have to stop living in the pain of yesterday and start walking in the promise of tomorrow. These 3 days aren't just about receiving a message. They're about accepting an assignment that's been waiting for you to become wise enough, broken enough, desperate enough to say yes without knowing all the details. Close your eyes right now. I want you to picture the last 10 years of your life. See them like pages in a book. Every chapter you wish you could rewrite, every sentence you wish you could edit, every paragraph that brought you to tears. Now see Jesus walking through every single page, His hand guiding the pen, His heart breaking with yours, His love never leaving. Now picture the next 10 years. But this time, see them under His promise. See yourself walking in purpose instead of pain. See yourself speaking life instead of death. See yourself carrying hope instead of hurt. See doors opening that you didn't even know existed. See relationships restored that you thought were dead forever. See your latter days being greater than your former days. That's not fantasy, chosen one. That's prophecy. That's what happens when someone finally surrenders their story to the author of life. That's what happens when you stop trying to be the hero of your own narrative and let God be God. But this vision, this promise, it has an expiration date. And that date is approaching faster than you think. The question that will determine everything is this: will you finally trust the one who saw you then, sees you now, and promises to see you through? Chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to carry 3 eternal truths with you, like precious stones in your heart. First, the 15th of August, 16th, and 17th are not just dates on your calendar, they are your divine appointment with destiny. The restlessness you've felt, the dreams that have stirred your spirit, the sense that something monumental is shifting that's not your imagination. That's heaven preparing to download what you've been waiting for your entire life. Second, Your past pain was not pointless, it was preparation. Every tear, every struggle, every moment you felt forgotten has been weaving together a tapestry of purpose that only God could design. Your scars are not marks of defeat, they are evidence of divine trust. God doesn't give his hardest assignments to his weakest warriors. Third, your age is not your limitation, it's your asset. While the world whispers that your best days are behind you, heaven declares that your appointed days are ahead of you. Moses was 80 when he split the Red Sea. Sarah was 90 when she birthed nations. Your wrinkles are not signs of decline, they are crowns of wisdom earned through decades of faithfulness. But beloved, you are not walking this path alone. Right now, as you hear these words, the same God who parted the Red Sea is still moving in your life. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead is dwelling within you. And beyond that divine presence, you have something beautiful, a community right here, right now, of fellow chosen ones who understand your journey, who've walked similar paths, who are ready to stand with you in prayer. Look around these comments. Feel these hearts connecting. See these spirits resonating. You've found your tribe, chosen one. We're not just viewers on a screen, we're family in the spirit. We see you, we understand you. We will pray with you. Let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. If God has brought you this far through every valley, every storm, every season that tried to break you, why would he abandon you now at the threshold of your greatest victory? He wouldn't. He won't. He's faithful to complete what he started in you. Now, before I release you into your destiny, join me in this prayer. Wherever you are in your living room, your bedroom, your kitchen, place your hand on your heart and let me speak over your life. Almighty God, creator of heaven and earth, I place my hand on the shoulder of every precious soul hearing these words. Father, you see them, not just their struggles, but their strength. Not just their pain, but their potential. Not just their past, but their purpose. Lord, bless these August days. Let the 15th of August, 16th and 17th be marked in history as the moment everything changed for your chosen ones. Break every chain of limitation, silence every voice of doubt, open doors that no man can shut. Bring divine connections that will accelerate their purpose. For those who are weary, breathe fresh strength into their bones. For those who are broken, let your healing flow through every crack. For those who feel forgotten, remind them that their names are engraved on your palms. For those who feel alone, surround them with your presence and connect them with others who share their calling. Father, give them dreams that direct them. Give them visions that guide them. Give them supernatural peace that surpasses understanding. Let them wake up each morning knowing that this is the day you have made for their breakthrough. Use their story, every chapter, every verse, every comma to set others free. Let their testimony become someone else's hope. Let their healing become a hospital for the hurting. Let their victory become a voice for the voiceless. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer and release them into their destiny with confidence, courage, and unshakable faith. Amen. Now, chosen one, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share what God spoke to your heart today. What are you believing him for in this season? Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Ask us to pray for specific areas of your life. Let this community surround you with love and intercession. If this message touched your soul, if something shifted in your spirit tonight, please share this video with someone who needs to hear it. There's someone in your life right now, a family member, a friend, a neighbor who's been feeling that same stirring, that same divine unrest. They need to know they're not alone. They need to know they're chosen too. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for letting these words penetrate the sacred chambers of your soul. Your time is precious, and you chose to invest it seeking God's heart for your life. That tells me everything I need to know about your character and your calling. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. We're building something beautiful here, A community where faith grows, hope is restored, and destinies are fulfilled. Every week, we're going deeper into the mysteries of God's plan for your life. Remember, beloved, you are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are chosen. You are called. And you are about to walk into the abundance that God has prepared for you from the foundation of the world. Until we meet again, walk in your authority, rest in His promise, and never forget, your greatest chapter is not behind you, it's ahead of you. Go in peace, go in power. Go in the unshakable knowledge that the 15th of August, 16th and 17th will change everything forever. God bless you, chosen one. Your time is now.